Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Trader Prep. It's 8:45 in the East on September 12th. We have a relatively quiet overnight. We see where it opens over here on the left side of the chart on the S&P 500, and it just goes kind of a little bit sideways. And after the European Open, which is here, it pumps up just a little bit, and it's kind of returning to that level now. So if we were to see this situation remain until the U.S. Open, which is somewhat likely, we would watch for choppy action, and then we would wait to see what the buyers or the sellers want to do. We're obviously in a bullish mode after yesterday's uh, session, and we'll see what kind of follow through it gives us. Also, remember that sometimes when we get these bullish sessions like we had yesterday, sometimes we get retracement into those candles. But as far as the open goes, I would expect a relatively quiet open. So if we look at the daily chart, here's the S&P 500. These are the lines that we put on here yesterday as far as the upper trend channel, the lower trend channel. Last night I showed this as the entire year. Obviously, this is just from the middle of February on. And I also put a midline in here. So we've got a midline on the channel. When you're using channels, you should be watching the midline as well. Look how the midline held here. Look how the midline, look at it just riding the midline in this area up in here. Look how it failed right at about the midline here. And today is really a confirmation on the S&P 500 on that midline. The other additional line that's on there, the gold line, which price is just above right now, is just the intraday high that we had back in August. So it's going to have to prove that it wants to stay above the midpoint, which is here. It has to prove that it wants to stay above the high that we had over in here, but it clearly is bullish. The other set of lines that we have on here is just a shorter term trend channel. We thought we'd work with trend channels a little bit, and you can see the second one that we have. And what is that identifying? Just this leg. So we're very close to the top of this trend channel. So if price does drop, where could it possibly drop to? To the bottom of that trend channel, and we see the support that we would have in this area. You can see what has happened here, the consolidation. Some people use consolidations as support and resistance points as well. Anyways, that is where we stand in the S&P. Right now we are up 2.5 points. It's 0.1%. It's on 275,000 contracts, which is pretty healthy. We know that around 200,000 contracts would be what we'd consider normal. So 275 is pretty good, even though it really hasn't gone anywhere. As we see, if we jump back to the comparison chart real quick, and I'm going to take this to a 3-minute. I'm going to pull it up a little bit so we can just see the recent action. So we can see that it's been, I don't know if I want to use the word selling off, but it's been pulling back towards that midpoint. The midpoint is not a super important level because we really haven't had what I'd consider a legitimate high or low, but that's the level that we'd be looking at, a pullback towards that midpoint, and then we'll see what it wants to do from that level. But again, that would be choppy. That would be sitting on my hands waiting to see if the buyers or the sellers want to take control. Back to the daily chart. Let me turn this to a daily chart since I have it on the 1440 from last night. So you can see there's no difference here between the two charts. As far as that goes, here's the NASDAQ, and the NASDAQ, which didn't make the all-time closing high yesterday, it clearly has a chance to do that today. Matter of fact, if it was to close right where it is, and it's only up 9 points, 0.1%, this would be a new closing high. We obviously see a bullish situation here. You might say, hey, that's an inverted H pattern from here to here. So it's building an inverted H pattern. And then you would say, how about if we close here? Is that close enough? And yeah, it really is. You'd actually like to see it a little bit higher, but sometimes it's not picture perfect. Maybe that's the way that it's going to look. And then that would tell us there's a 60% chance it wants to go higher, 40% chance it wants to go lower. One of the things that we did, if I go back to the S&P real quick, is we put some, let's see, oops. go like this, and let me bring this whole thing down. So here is the measured level at 25.47, and we can kind of go in time here and say, here is where, oops, there it is. So this is where the measurement and the longer term trend channel and the shorter term trend channel all come together. So you would say, where is that? And it's about 4 weeks from now. Anyways, the Dow is up 34 points. It's up about 0.1%. We did not have a new all-time closing high on the Dow. This would do it, though, if it wanted to do that. Again, those new all-time closing highs, obviously it's a bullish situation. It doesn't really tell us what the market wants to do today, and we're nowhere near the new all-time high on the Russell. The VIX 1063 this morning. Yesterday it closed at 1073, and it's about the same spot. I'm actually a little bit surprised it's not in single digits right now. We've got the DAX, which is up another 0.6%. It's right up here. You can see that that's the current price. Obviously, we have the price marker on here as well. And it's in a bullish leg. It's got a bullish leg going on here. This is a legitimate spot to be looking for. Let's throw a trend line on there. No, I did not, Les. And yeah, we'll put it there. So we see that 12,673.5 would be the level that we'd be looking for. Here is the 30-year. And the 30-year, we talked about the trend channel that's on there. It looks like it's going to break it and give us a Fibonacci retracement level. And the 50% level, which is the most common, is at 154.10. And we'll see if it wants to head down to that level. I am still bullish on bonds in the midterm, even though obviously in the short term, they probably want to head lower. You know, anytime you have the gap, and a gap and go, or you have a gap and it closes very close to the low, you're probably going to have action following in that direction. Doesn't have to be the next day, but you probably have action following in that direction, usually the next day. What else do we see on here? We see a broken cycle on our stochastic. So usually what happens is it goes through the power zone. Even here, it finished the power zone and moved the other way. Here it got into the power zone and was not able to get from the bottom of the power zone to the top of the power zone, which, as you can see, it did it here, 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 and here. It's the common thing that happens. That's why we have identified the power zone, but this is a failure. That's telling you that it's weaker than it even looks. The 10-year, I should say that the 30-year is down 0.4%. The 10-year is down 0.2%, and it's falling out of the zone here. Here's the dollar index. The dollar index, we said that it's possible that the dollar index wants to turn, but the first objective has to be for it to get above 92.50. If it gets above 92.50, it's got the opportunity to get up to 90. Over 92.50 would be 94.25, and around that 50% retracement level. But as you can see, it's still in a downtrend. Even with the yesterday and today, it's still in a downtrend. We'll see what it wants to do from here. So obviously that means we think that the euro could be rolling down, but again, the euro has to go lower. This just could be a bullish pullback, so we're unsure with what that wants to do. Here we see the cable. We saw the cable print a shooting star yesterday at what we said was a relatively important area. It's moving higher right now. We'll see if that holds that area into the close. If we come out on this a little bit more, we can see that this whole area over in here where we had this big consolidation, it really has to get above that before it's got some free territory. So it's still got a little bit of work to do. Here is the yen. It's up about 0.5%. So we see it saved itself. It closed below that 108.34, but never confirmed. Matter of fact, the next day after closing below that level, it closes back above the 109.14. So right now, 111 would be the level that I'd be looking at. The euro yen remains in that sideways consolidation, although bullish. The Aussie looks something like this. We see the shooting star in the bearish engulfing pattern. We talked about that yesterday. So far today, we just have a spinning top, no real bearish action to follow. And on the Kiwi, where we had the rejection of the higher price and a confusion candle, it's trying to move higher. And if it gets over 73.40, we probably have higher prices coming. The only data that we have today, if I remember right, is at 10 o'clock. I think 10 o'clock is JOLTS. And here is the CAD, and we see the CAD going sideways for the last 3 sessions. If we go on to commodities, we see crude oil, kind of quiet again today, but still pushing a little bit higher. It's up about 0.2%. It's going to be interesting to see what happens here. As I said, this is an area between 47 and 50, 46 and 50. That price could get stuck, and could get stuck for a while. Let's see if that's going to happen, or if it wants to break one of those levels. Just like we see in the 30-year, gold is pulling back, and it was a little bit higher. It actually broke above the trend channel. Gold is very cyclical, and it's possible that this bullish cycle that we've been looking at could be coming to an end, but it's certainly not clear that that's happening yet. Silver, we see silver with a similar chart to gold, and here's what copper looks like. Copper had that big selling day, just a small bearish inside type day, and then we see additional follow through to the downside, which is perfectly normal price action. If we look at soybeans, we see that they've been bullish leg up, pulls back. If it can hold really 950, it might have another bullish leg to the upside, but on the bigger picture, that's a possible lower high. So it's depending on what time frame that you're using, you might be seeing some different things. If we go back to our comparison report, just to finish up, we see that it has come to the midpoint, and it's trying to get a bounce off that midpoint. For anybody who's trading the NASDAQ today, we've got Apple coming out with their new products. Sometimes that creates selling when they do that. Who knows what will happen this time, but just be aware that there could be some volatility when that happens. Everybody have a great day today. Meet you back here at 4 o'clock.